So the Rockets win game one of their Summer League series in a thrilling fashion, coming down to the very end when Jabari Smith hits a 3-point shot with zero point 0.6 seconds left for the Rockets to win the game and beat the Blazers 100-99. And I wanted to give some thoughts on how some of the key Rockets played in this game. I watched the first half last night live, and then I had to go somewhere, so I missed the second half live, and I caught back up last night when I got home. And overall, I think the Rockets front office and Udoka and the staff probably saw a lot of what they wanted to see. So I was tweeting during the game, at least during the first half, and then I went back and tweeted some things out during the second half. So I'm gonna give some initial impressions. Really, I'm gonna focus on the four main guys here that are, part of this Rockets young core, and that's Jabari Smith Jr., Tari Eason, Amin Thompson, and Cam Whitmore. As we know, Jabari and Tari are second-year players for the Rockets, but they were still playing in the summer league game last night, and then Amin Thompson and Cam Whitmore, of course, are the rookies. So um, overall, I think this was a positive game for the Rockets. I think even if they hadn't won this game, I think there's definitely positives to take away. Winning it in the fashion that they did with zero point 0.6 seconds on the clock, and it comes down to a lob pass in from Tari to Jabari, and Jabari just with that high release gets that shot off and drills the three. Of course, that made it exciting. Um, but I think in general, I'm going to go through again these four players and just talk about my impressions of the game itself, and then just kind of overall where I think these players, what their trajectory could be early on. It was a lot with the four players. The positive, the main theme for me was we saw a lot of what I think was expected from these players in the style that they played last night in the games that they had. First half, we know Jabari started slow, and not necessarily slow, but he just looked a little too tight. I do think there's a tendency sometimes for Jabari to get a little too mental, or to try to force things a little bit, and he kind of just gets out of his own role. I think he's not necessarily an on-ball creator. He's probably better off-ball with someone helping, setting him up for shots. At least that's what I think his strength will be in the NBA. When I think about players like that, I think of like Klay Thompson. I even think of Michael Porter Jr. Of the Nuggets. I don't know that Jabari will ever be a number one, option on a team, and that's okay. Like he doesn't need to be that guy to still be a quality, high impact starter in this league. As a 20-year-old, or I think he may have just turned 20. There's still a ways to go for him to really find his footing in this league, and he flashes these skills, whether it's his shooting, skills that was really a reason why he was he was a top draft pick, and then his defensive ability and just the way he can move at the size that he is. He can be a high impact starter for a contender, and that's I think what his ceiling ultimately will be. I think last night at the beginning of the game, he was trying to really be that number one option. And some of that I think probably he took to heart when he was coming into this game as like, hey, I got to go here to the Summer League and really be a leader for these young guys. I mean, he said that much in an interview. I think it was during the game or after the game. Like, I'm here to be a leader for these young guys, let alone he's around their age, but these newer guys that are coming into the league. And then in the second half, I feel like he started to play more of what his game is, which he had a great second half. And he ended the game with 33 points. He was 8 of 18 overall shooting, 3 of 8 from the three-point line. And then where he really made up a lot of ground was at the free throw line. He was 14 of 17. He did add in 7 rebounds, a block, a really key block at the end of that game to prevent the Blazers from going up a couple possessions, keeping it within a one-possession game. He did have 5 fouls, something to monitor. In the Summer League, you can have up to 10, and then he had 3 turnovers. So I think where I stand on Jabari is still, I think he is the Rockets' best option as the starting power forward. And really, to start the season, I don't see why you wouldn't. I think Jabari still has great potential. I think when he is surrounded by players that can help him get shots up, like whether that's Fred VanVleet, whether that's Alperen Şengün, whether that's even Amin Thompson. Like that's where Jabari is really gonna thrive. And then of course we know there is a goal for him to be one of the better defenders on this Rockets team. So like I think as fans sometimes it's too tempting to watch a moment or watch a series or watch a half and then make a conclusion on a player and say, oh, he shouldn't start as power forward. He had this slow half. I mean, I think we kind of like I've done this too before, but I think it's easy. It's too tempting to like rush to a judgment. And really, we got to remember like the Rockets are a young team, and where they are right now, where they are today, where they're going to be in October, November, that's different than where they're going to be when they end the season. We saw this with Jabari last season. It took him, almost half the season, if not longer, to really settle into the NBA and really start to find his groove during the last season. So it's there's going to be some struggles and some challenging times, and these young players are going to work through that. I mean, some of these guys they're not even legally able to drink alcohol right now. So like there's some growing to do. I still think Jabari Smith is the best option as the power forward, the starting power forward in this lineup. And I think that's what the Rockets will continue to do with him. Overall, solid showing last night, especially in the second half. I was really happy to see him elevate his play in the second half and really settle in. And of course, he has things to work on, right? Like he's far from being a finished product here. But that's why Udoka was brought in. And so even if Jabari doesn't play another summer league game, I think overall it was a positive. Like Udoka probably saw more of what he already knows and is already working on ways to help Jabari improve. And so overall, I think Jabari played well. I think Tari Eason was another guy. Tari was the second leading scorer. He had 20 points overall, 7 from 14 from the field, 2 of 4 from the three-point line, so pretty efficient scoring-wise, and then 4 of 6 from the free throw line. He did add 10 rebounds, which is great to see. I think that's going to need to be a big part of Tari Eason's game. Tari Eason, when I think of him, the type of player that he really could become or the role he could carve out in this league, he probably could turn into a starter at some point in this league. I think right now his best role is a versatile forward off the bench, whether that's coming in to spell and back up Jabari, whether that's coming in alongside someone like Jabari. Maybe he plays the 3 if the Rockets need a bigger lineup for whatever reason. Maybe he plays the 4 if the Rockets want to go a little smaller lineup. Like I think he's just a versatile piece off the bench. I don't think he is. I wouldn't start him over Jabari right now. I think there's still room for Tari to grow, and maybe at some point, he does earn that starting role as the season goes on. But I wouldn't start him. I don't think there's any reason to start him over Jabari right now. Tari, Jabari. How do you like that? But overall, I had a great night. And, Tari's going to be that guy that's going to do a little bit of everything. He's going to help on the defensive end of the floor. He has great size, good athleticism to help down there. He did have 4 blocks last night. So, you see his defensive impact on that side of the floor. And then on the offensive side, he's a quality player. And I think where he really could improve, and this is where I think actually if he is going to become a starter, if he can improve his handles a little bit, I think that's when you'd see Tari Eason really become an impactful offensive player. But right now, I really like him off the bench as a versatile forward, kind of a hybrid 3-4. You can bring him in different situations, and he's going to give you good energy off the bench as one of your first guys to come in games. And maybe he spot starts here and there, depending on matchups or lineups or injuries, whatever it may be. We'll move to Amin Thompson. Amin finished with 16 points on 6 of 13 shooting. He was 1 for 1 from the three-point line. That was good to see. He was also 3 of 4 from the free throw line. Also good to see. He ends with 5 assists, and I think that is exactly what you want to see from Amin Thompson. I mean, he was pretty much as advertised with what we know about him. He is athletic. He's twitchy. He's springy. He was using those athletic advantages on the defensive side, on the offensive side. He did a great job distributing the ball when he had the opportunities. He had some quick passes in the half-court sets. Only had 2 turnovers, which I thought was a really big positive. Did have 4 fouls, but as he learns, as he gets adjusted to the NBA speed and that level of play, and the way guys move in the NBA, I think ultimately he will be a really quality defender. Of course, there's still questions on his jump shot, and it's not just the 3-point shot. It's when Amin Thompson can get past a lot of players with just his athleticism. Like he can get into the lane, he can get into towards the rim and make a play. There's gonna be situations where, for whatever reason, whether he's getting doubled, whether there's good help defense, where like he's not gonna have necessarily the ability to go finish at the rim, and he may not have the ability to kick out. So he's gonna have to develop a jump shot if he really wants to become that elite player. So that's going to be something to monitor moving forward. I still like him as the second facilitator off the bench for the Rockets. Start him behind Fred Van Vliet at the point guard position. I think from day one, you just let him run. And again, there's going to be some growing pains with Amin Thompson, but his mentality, his energy is exactly what you want with a high draft pick. He looked, he looked like he was, especially to start the game, more comfortable on the floor even than Jabari. Like he just looked like he felt like he belonged. He felt comfortable there. So good on him with the start that he had. He did leave the game at the very end with a tweaked ankle injury. Doesn't sound like he'll be playing the rest of the summer league. Also, does not sound like it's a serious injury. But I think at this point, Rockets probably saw what they needed to see. Like he was, again, his game was pretty much as advertised, and they probably feel good about what they saw from him, and what his strengths are moving forward, and what his areas of improvement are as he enters into his rookie season. And then Cam Whitmore also had a very, very solid game. Actually had a double-double, 14 points, 11 rebounds, just 2 assists. He did have 2 steals, and then 1 foul, 1 turnover. So pretty clean from those aspects. He was 5 of 18 shooting. He was 1 of 6 from the 3-point line, and then 3 of 5 of the free throw line. I really think, and I tweeted this out last night after I finished that game, I think one of the biggest areas of opportunity for Cam Whitmore will be dialing in a 3-point shot. He displayed his strength inside, close to the rim, inside the paint. So he's a strong player. I mean, a strong finisher around the rim, and he displayed that last night. And we'll continue to see that in the summer league and as we get into the season. I don't know how much run he'll get with the Rockets to start the season. I don't know if he'll go to the G League for a little bit, or if, Jayshawn Tate is kind of floating out there as another small forward player for the Rockets that could get some minutes with Dylan Brooks also being signed. So I don't know. Cam Whitmore's younger, right? I think he's 19 as well. I think he needs to go dial in that 3-point shot a little bit. I think that would really open his game further. Like Amin Thompson, to me, it's more than just a 3-point shot. It's like go get a jumper that you can hit from the elbow, that you can hit those mid-range jumpers, because I think Amin Thompson is going to do a really good job of getting by people and then maybe running into help or whatever. So he's going to have to put up jump shots from different parts of the floor. I think Cam Whitmore, if he develops a 3-point shot, that's a really a player that can help stretch the floor, and then he can use his physicality to get into the lane. So that's something I'm going to be watching with Cam. And then again, for him, just adjusting to the speed of the game. But I think going out and getting 11 rebounds shows you his effort level as well and how he's dialed in. It's funny to think that one reason he fell to the Rockets was, I guess there were some teams that didn't like his interview process or his persona or whatever it was when they were interviewing him. And he goes out in the summer league game and gets 11 rebounds. So it's like, okay, maybe they were off base there, but it's just going to benefit the Rockets. So overall, I mean, again, I think it was a positive. I'm looking at this box score. No one else on the Rockets summer league team really did much, but the 4 guys that everyone wanted to see contributed. They were all in double-digit scoring. Jabari had 33, Tari had 20, Amin had 16, Cam had 14. 2 of the guys had double-doubles, Tari Eason and Cam Whitmore. Amin and Tari also had 5 assists. Amin and Tari had 4 blocks. So, I mean, I think overall it was a good showing from this young core. And, now I don't know of these guys. Probably Cam is the one that will probably play all of the summer league games. It sounds like Amin will not since he tweaked his ankle. I don't know how many more games Tari and Jabari will play. But I think it was a good showing. And I think that's what you want to see from the Rockets' young core. And really, like, the way I'm looking at this phase two is, and Udoka kind of spoke to this as well. He got interviewed midway through the game. It might have been in the second half. Um, just talking about like his he's tasked with finding out what these players can be and like developing these players. That's what phase two is. Phase two is like if they can get to the play-in game, that's like the peak of phase two, or that's like a really high goal of phase two. I think really the priority of phase two, even if they let's say they go win 37 games this season, which is an improvement from the 22 that they won last year, and they don't make the play-in game. Let's say the play-in game cutoff is like you got to win 39 games or 40. The top goal that I'm looking at is like, are the Rockets seeing things from these young players to where they feel like they have any guys that can be stars in this league? Because they're going to have to, at some point, whether it's the next offseason or the offseason after that, start making decisions on, okay, are any of these guys worthy of an extension? Can any of these guys be cornerstones or foundational pieces or stars? Can any of them be high end starters? Like, what do we have in these young guys? And that's what phase two is all about. And then I think once they figure that out in phase two, it's probably going to take a year or two to really come to like understand, okay, this is what we have in these guys. Then they start building around those pieces. So, there's 7 guys right now in this young core. It's possible only 2 or 3 really turn into like foundational pieces, or one. Um, it's also possible that, hey, maybe they have like 4 or 5 they feel good about, and maybe there's 2 that they end up doing something with via trade or whatever. But that's the goal of the staff right now. Is like go figure out what they have in these players, how much can they develop them, which of them can actually live up to their potential or their hype, and then go from there. So, uh, you know, I say all that to say that like I want to remind. I see this a lot on Rockets Twitter, and this happens across the NBA too. Um, there's just a rush to make judgments on players, especially players that are like 19, 20, 21. I mean, it's not uncommon in the NBA for players to really show what they are when they get to like 23, 24, 25 years old. So I think you definitely this year want to see steps forward from someone like Jalen Green. You definitely want to see steps forward for someone like Alperen Şengün. And then certainly, you want to see more from Tari and Jabari. Amin Thompson and Cam Whitmore are rookies, so like you kind of have to be realistic on the expectations that they may show this season. But overall, when you look at the Rockets' moves, and I'm not going to get into the free agency moves in this YouTube, I'll do it at a different one. But when you look at their moves and you look at what the Rockets are doing, they really are prioritizing this young core and surrounding them with veterans to see who can basically be above the line and be a legit NBA player and be someone that can help this team become a playoff team and a contender, and who maybe just isn't cutting it. And that's what the Rockets are doing. So I say all that to say, again, I think last night was a very solid showing from the 4 players of the young core that played. And, I think overall Rockets fans should feel good about what they saw. We're seeing other players in the summer league games kind of struggle. There's been some guys. I won't say names necessarily, but some guys are shooting inefficiently. Some guys are kind of look a little lost or slow out there. Some guys are just working to find their footing, and that's part of summer league basketball, right? Part of summer league basketball is to like kind of get these guys as acclimated to this different level of play, this different environment, that just getting them used to being a professional basketball player. And so I think for the Rockets overall, they did well. So we'll continue to see how they perform in the next, I guess, 4 games. It might end up just being Cam Whitmore, who is the only um, young core Rockets player that plays in these next 4 games. I don't know what Tari and Jabari's, what their plan is, what the Rockets' plan is for them moving forward. And again, it doesn't sound like Amin Thompson will be playing since he tweaked his ankle. So we'll see. But overall, I think Rockets fans should feel good about it. I certainly feel good about it. With the realistic expectations I'm making myself have, I think there's still positives and opportunities moving forward. So that's that. Rockets get the win on in an exciting fashion at the very end. I love that Jabari was the guy that hit that shot, and then you could see. I'll put this little nugget in there. I know everyone's been commenting on it. He ran over to KJ Martin, was in the house, who is one of most recent former Rockets now who has been shipped out in a trade, or I guess it'll be announced how he got shipped out soon. But I thought that was kind of cool. To me, that was like, there are good relationships on this Rockets team. There is some good culture there, and I thought that was good to see. Okay, I'm gonna do another video soon on the Rockets free agency moves. I've been I've been trying to keep up with exactly what they did. There's definitely some positives in the moves that they made. I think there's some questions in the moves that they made. Ultimately, I do think they came out with more positives than anything. But we'll do another video. I'll do another video on that here pretty soon. Thank y'all for watching. If you haven't already, if you like this content, like and subscribe to the channel. I'll remind everyone, this isn't just necessarily a Rockets focused channel. As we get into football season, I'm going to start talking about some of the teams that I follow. I'm certainly a Houston professional sports fan. I'm also a Texas Longhorns alumni and fan. And I also play a lot of fantasy football. So we'll talk about that as well. Hey, thank y'all for watching. Hope you're enjoying the Summer League so far. I sure am. There's a lot of good young talent in this NBA Summer League across the NBA. I mean, Scoot Henderson was great until he went out. I was really impressed with Shaden Sharp on the Blazers. I think the Trailblazers have some good foundational pieces they can start to build around, and they'll probably get some decent assets back in any Damian Lillard trade that they make. So anyways, thank y'all for watching, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.